Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea. We are Cass and Amanda. We're the co-founders of the creative studio Foxtrot Branding, and we're super excited to be on for another episode of Spill the Tea.
Yeah, and in these episodes, we spill the tea about our lives as designers and business owners and the challenges and rewards that come up along the way.
Yeah, so in today's episode, we're going to be chatting about all of the lessons that we've learned over our last 6 years of business, and there's a lot. There's good things and there's hard things, and we kind of just want to talk about all of it really openly. We're going to see as much as we can get through today, and just share some stories and experiences, and hopefully that helps you in your business journey too.
Yeah, we've been going at it for 6 years now. Officially, September is our birthday month, so we thought it would be nice to do kind of like a reflection episode to kind of look back and
Love to reflect.
yeah, share about lessons. Most of them we've learned the hard way, but I'm thinking about anything that I feel like super traumatized by. I feel like if looking back, I feel okay about it all. Like there was hard stuff in the moment, but now I look back on it, I'm like, I made it through.
It only
Hard
makes you
stuff will come up
stronger.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the only way you can really like earn your wisdom as a business owner is to go through it. But hopefully, if there are specific scenarios like we have advice for of like don't do this or make a backup of this, for example, like you guys can not make that same mistake.
So you don't have the same trauma that we have.
Right, exactly.
Hopefully we can save you. So what are we drinking today? I've got my little cowboy mug from Wyoming.
Oh, cute. Is that new?
It's very cute. No, I've had it for a couple years because my grandpa lives in Wyoming, so we'll go there every couple of years and visit. And I picked this one up on there.
I always need like the lore behind the cup.
The lure,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm just drinking, I think it's like lemon ginseng tea. It's like my
Ooh,
favorite. It's either that or lately I've been doing green tea with peppermint tea with it, and it's really good and refreshing in the mornings. It's very
that sounds
nice.
so healthy. If I switched to tea in the morning, I feel like I'd be a lot healthier as a person, but I really like the morning ritual of coffee. I just have
Yeah,
like an americano since we have an espresso machine. I just put some water in it. I When I
nice.
do like a sweet breakfast, I like a not sweet coffee to go with it,
Hmm.
and I just had like a bar this morning, so
Yeah,
that's what I'll go for like with black coffee. But if I'm having like eggs or something, then I like a like sweet iced coffee to go with it.
I'm like I want to see your mug up closer and show our
Oh,
little mugs like
yeah,
close
so
mug
I
moment. I think we should
this
start doing
one
this.
we should take a screenshot of it.
Yeah.
I thrifted these little mugs, and they look like they look like they're from the 80s, but they have these like really cute illustrations of like houses and like little farm animals on them. And
They're so
Amanda was
cute.
like, those are a really common like collectible as part of like
Hmm.
a dinner set, right?
Yeah, they have like a full set. I mean, you can get like plates, bowls, mugs, and everything.
I had never
I
seen them
see them all the
before.
time at the thrift store, especially around here where I live. Like, we have a lot of really great thrift stores, and I see them all the time, and they're so cute.
But yeah, they make me really happy. They're like the perfect little size. I have two of them. One of them chipped like immediately though, which
Oh
is
no.
really sad about.
Well, you'll find another, so you
Yeah,
can just thrift some
honestly,
more. They're never ending.
that makes me
You could
excited.
probably get them all on eBay too. You could buy like a whole collection if you really wanted to.
True. Okay, do we want to do our weekend highlight and kind of share something that was fun from each of our
Sure.
weekends?
You want to share about yours? You had like a really fun
Yeah.
week. You had a full
I
week.
did. I had a full weekend, basically like a 5-day weekend because I went to the beach last week with my husband's family, and it was actually like one of the best beach trips I think I've ever had. Just
Oh,
like
that's
where we
awesome.
stayed, it was so nice. It was very relaxing. Um, we got to eat at like really good restaurants. I feel like the vibes were just good, and I had a good time. And it was like a really pretty beach area in South Carolina, and I just had a really good time. I feel like it was really needed because it's just
Yeah.
been a really busy couple of months, and it's just going to keep getting busy.
Hmm.
So I was really glad I got to do that.
Yeah, it looks like you guys had a lot of fun. I'm on her like close friends stories, and I'm like seeing all the things you were up to, and it
One
looked
of
like a
my
lot of
friends was like,
fun.
"Your close friends is like my TV this week." I was like,
Yeah,
"You're
I
welcome."
was very entertained.
What
Let's
about
see.
you?
Yeah, my weekend highlight. I've been hanging out with this group. Like, there's this organization that does like meetups, so you can like meet new people if you're like new to the city. I'm not super new to where I moved to, but like I hadn't put in a lot of effort to like meet people and make friends. But I joined this like workout group, and then we've been hanging out, and we had like a girls' night out the other night, and that was a lot of fun. So I had a good
Oh,
time.
what'd
And
you
then we
guys do?
celebrated my sister's birthday too this weekend, so it was very very busy, very full. And I visited another friend, and we like met up between our towns and got brunch, and that was nice too to catch up with her because I
Oh,
only see her every couple months. So lots and lots of socializing this weekend, which was
love
fun.
a brunch.
I
I
love a
I kind
brunch.
of
I'm
feel
a brunch
deprived if
girl.
I don't get a brunch like once a week.
Yeah. Like I need a brunch to function. Yeah.
Which was
I gotta
hard
have my
because
girl time.
it's important, it's necessary. We didn't really used to have a good brunch place, where I live, but now we have a bakery that is
Mhm.
actually open on Sundays, especially because there's just not a lot of places open on Sundays in small town in the South. So now there is a Sunday brunch place,
Or if
and
they are, it's all like the really big like chain restaurants and stuff, and it's like that's not always like the
you don't
vibe,
like
you
going to
know.
Golden Corral on a
No.
Sunday?
No, not my favorite. Okay, so back to our topic. We keep getting off on our tangents and everything, but back to our topic, we're going to be talking about all the lessons that we've learned over the years, the good, the bad, the difficult, the easy, all of that. And just to give like a quick, our quick origin story, backstory, we met 6 years ago when I was still in college. Cass had just graduated. We were both kind of freelancing and doing our own thing. We ended up meeting and realized that we had a lot of really complementary skills, and we just decided to start this business together officially. So after 1 week of knowing each other, which we'd tell the story in more depth another time, but within 1 week of knowing each other officially, we started the business together, which is kind of a fun, crazy story. But it all worked out great for us, which is awesome. And yeah, that's where we're at now. Business has been going really well for the last 6 years. We've definitely grown a lot, and we're excited to share with you guys all the things that we've learned.
Yeah, spill the tea maybe on a few juicy ones.
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay, so I think we're just gonna go back and forth and kind of like pick a lesson that each of us want to share.
Mhm.
So we've got a list here that we're choosing from. I feel like the first one that like I just think of that always comes to my mind when I think of like a lesson that a lesson that I've learned over the years would just be how important time off is, and like
Mhm.
especially just coming off of a week where I did work a little bit when I was gone, but I got to take some vacation time. I always say like I would not be running the business at the capacity that I am if we didn't prioritize
Mhm.
time off in our business. So I don't think time off is optional as a business owner, because if you don't plan it, and set those times aside for yourself, you're probably going to be forced into it because you're going to burn out really bad, and it's just so necessary. And even as entrepreneurs, like we'll talk about how, since we are putting in the extra work to run our own business, we want to probably get even more time off if possible than we would if we
Mhm.
were employed for someone else. And I just think like in America, employers do not give it
No.
enough time off at all. Like,
Like 2 weeks out of 52 weeks is
or even
nothing. That is
4 weeks.
awful.
I feel like 6 weeks is kind of like the
That
minimum
should be the
for
minimum. Yeah.
like good mental health and human functioning.
Mhm.
So that is something we've prioritized, and I'm really glad that we have, because it gives you so much perspective to be able to step away for us like fully from our business and take more extended periods of time off, not just even like a long weekend here, like a week here and there. We have our two longer breaks in the summer and the winter, and I just really need that, because as an entrepreneur you get kind of tunnel vision, I think, sometimes, and it just feels, for me at least, it feels really overwhelming, and I can't really see outside of like this month that I'm trying to get through. So I think that's also where like your creativity gets renewed too, because it's really hard to come up with ideas when you're just constantly in the trenches and never taking time
Yeah.
away.
That's the bigger one for me. I think we both kind of have different benefits that we reap from like the time that we take apart. Like I feel like especially as like as a creative, just like in general, I think we need a lot of time for our brains to like just totally rest. And that's when like the really great ideas do come through. And that's
Hmm.
how I feel about creativity. I feel like I'm not always like coming up with ideas. Like I feel like they come to me, and you have to like create that space for those ideas to come to you. And taking time apart from the business and taking time to like travel or go do something that like inspires you or excites you as a creative person, I think is the best way to like fuel those ideas. And taking that time apart, like to just like go on some trips this year. I went on a couple like small trips and then like our bigger vacation. And from each of those, I got so much like inspiration that I then use in our like rebrand for our business. And we'll talk about that another time. But yeah, like that's like it's just so necessary, I think, as a creative and as a business owner.
I think your business really reflects what you put into your mental health and your well-being. I
Hmm.
think if you are feeling really burnt out and really scatterbrained, like your business is going to reflect that in
Yeah.
how it functions and how it looks. But and I can visually see now that we're like rolling out our some of our rebrands, like your European like backpacking trip, like it's reflected like in our branding and the colors and like the ideas you had from it. So it's very cool to see like the visual representation and payoff of taking that time off, because I know it's a
Yeah.
scary thing to do. And it even feels a little scary for us because that is time, like when we're away, we're you know
You're
possibly
not
losing
actively
some
making money.
inquiries.
Yeah.
We're not able to be there actively marketing. There are things you can do to keep things running, but yeah, like that is a risk you take, but I think it's always worth it 100%.
Yeah, and if you guys do want some more information on like how to set yourself up for long times of or just like long breaks away from work, we did do a episode all about that, so you can go back and listen to that. But I think that's kind of like another lesson we learned. I don't have this written down on the list, but just how important it is to like really take good care of yourself and your mental health as a business owner. Like Cass and I are both really passionate about just mental health and just doing what we need so that we can like not just be productive but also like be happy and be content in our lives. Like, even if you own your own business, like work is still work, and we don't ever want like our own business to negatively affect our lives. Like Cass said, like if we're starting our own business, we're putting in all this effort. I want to have like an even greater reward than if I were to work for someone else. So like I want to be able to take the time off. I want to be able to pay myself a bonus so I'm not stressed about finances, and like I can put that money towards something else exciting that enriches my life. Like that's all really important to me. I have the money to like support myself. We can go to therapy if we need to. Like we can have the support we need, and all of that is really important to both of us.
Yeah, and it's like as a business owner, you have the flexibility to be able to change things if it's not working for your lifestyle
Hmm.
or working for you mentally anymore, but you do have to put the energy into doing that. And whether that's like just taking the time to acknowledge it and think through it and being like, I've been in kind of like a bad headspace mentally. I wonder if there are things in my business that are like causing that, or things I could change to get out of that, or going to therapy and talking about it. Even like just a couple months ago, I scheduled a therapy session. I hadn't been in a while because I felt like just really overwhelmed by work. And I was just so go, go, go. I wasn't like stopping to think about it. And I was like doing the like having three screens in front of me at all times, like just not even like stopping to consider what was going on, or I guess just like accept that I was feeling really overwhelmed. So it was very grounding just to have that session. And I don't even think I had any big breakthroughs. I think my therapist was just like, maybe you should like not have a YouTube video on 24/7 so that your brain could like process some things.
Yeah.
I just tend to get in like a tailspin really easily in my head, and it makes me anxious all the time, and I just bury it so deeply. I don't like deal with it.
Hmm.
So I think you have to deal with it as a business owner. Like, yes, you have the option to change things, whereas if you were employed, you don't have that flexibility. It kind of just is what it is, unless you want to search for another job. But it takes work to like actually change things for yourself and figure out how you want to adapt things to make things better in your head and make it so that you can feel more peaceful and like just chill in the other aspects of your life, because your business will like eat into those other areas and stress you out when you want to be like just relaxing and not thinking about work.
Yeah, you have to take really good care of yourself as a business owner, and it's not that easy sometimes. It's
No.
definitely hard to like, I don't know, maintain good like physical and mental health and keep everything balanced, but it's definitely worth the effort.
Yeah. And it not to say that it's like easy when you are employed or you have a different type of, I don't know, job, but it's unique. I think some of the challenges are going to be different because it does get more easy to like overwork yourself and not set those boundaries of this is my working time, or they're just unique challenges that come with it. So I think, yeah, you have to be intentional
Hmm.
with it, which I do have a lesson about how the biggest struggles I've had in business have been emotional. Like, I feel like hands down, yes, we've had financial difficulties or like stressful months or times, yes, there have been times where I just feel like really overworked or feel like I can't keep up, but I feel like the emotions are the hardest part for me when it comes to running my own business, like dealing with feeling like I'm failing. Like that's been a huge one for me in like the past year that just like keeps coming up or
And
um
it's interesting too when you say that because it's like you'll feel like you're failing, even though like our business is like if you look at logistically or like look at the numbers, like we actually are doing really well. And so it's like your feelings are not always reflecting like what's true in
yeah.
like your actual numbers or your actual success of your business, you know?
Yeah, oh, it's so true. It's weird how those emotions like really just take over though. And like people
Mhm.
will ask me, "How's your business going?" And I'm like, it's going good." And like that's how I'll like start it because I
And
just
it's so interesting. We always talk about this. We have such different like approaches to business. Like I feel like I'm never super stressed about business, but I'm like stressed about all kinds of other things in my life. It's just like we each have our thing. There's something that triggers different feelings in
Mhm.
yourself, and like for you, it's like business triggers a lot of things, and like that's kind of like what you're saying. That lesson is like business can be very emotional, and it's kind of like when people say like marriage is hard, like marriage takes a lot of work, like also owning a business is a lot of work and it's hard and like it does trigger a lot of things in you that you have to like heal.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of like, you know, ways you can doubt yourself and how you interact with clients, or like you may try to like assess your self-worth based on how good of a designer you are or based on how much you're charging or how much you're
Comparison,
making, the comparisons. Yeah, it's like there's so many different ways you can be triggered in business for sure.
which is exhausting,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that is a unique thing of working for yourself that you have to deal with all of those like emotional challenges that come up. So I yeah, and there's just so many different kinds. Like I feel like one will kind of be at the forefront for me just depending on where I'm at. And I feel like earlier on it was probably a lot of that imposter syndrome feeling or just feeling like I didn't know enough or I wasn't going to be able to provide for my clients, which don't get me wrong, I still get, a little bit nervous about projects sometimes or and it's not even founded in reality because at this point I am very confident in what we offer and, being able to achieve that for my clients and I only take on projects that I know I can achieve it. I'm not anymore feeling like, okay, I'm going to figure this out as I go. Like I don't feel that way anymore. But I don't that's not necessarily at the forefront for me anymore like the imposter syndrome. It is more sometimes I think the just like am I meeting these goals I wanted to or achieving what I want to. And it is funny how people perceive your business too. I don't know if that's a
Mhm.
lesson in and of itself, but like what you think of your business or how it looks on the outside is probably not how other people are perceiving
Mhm.
it. Like if
Yeah.
we're
Like,
having a
we'll get
hard month,
comments all the time from people. They're like, "It looks like you're doing so well. You're working with, like, massive clients all the time." Like, that's
yeah.
not totally true all the time. I mean, we are doing well, but, like, I don't know. People's perceptions are very different of, like, what it actually feels like.
Yeah, and I think that's probably true for every single business owner, no matter what
Mhm.
level of success you hit. Like, you
Yeah.
always feel like a little bit probably insecure or like there are these things you want to achieve but you haven't, but from the outside it looks like, you're thriving and you're hitting all the goals. So I think that's
Mhm.
that's funny. It's that just that perception difference of being in it versus how people see it on the outside.
Maybe that's another lesson is, like, the way that, like, I don't know, the things you think you're struggling with that everyone's gonna notice, like, nobody notices.
So true.
Like, you really don't need to worry that much about, like, what people are seeing or thinking, because usually it's
No.
positive, you know, and usually they're thinking you're doing even better than you might be, so it's probably
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry that much. So kind of along the same lines of, like, people's perception being different than your own reality, I think sometimes, like I said, people will assume that we're always working with, like, super huge clients or really big projects all the time, but that's not always super true for us. We've kind of, like, changed and adapted our business a little bit and, like, expanded our offers, but kind of the lesson there, I think, is that, like, big projects are not always, like, our favorite thing to do or not always like the best service. I think we've definitely made that better. Like our biggest service offering is definitely like more profitable for us now. But I think when we were first starting, like we would do all these like really huge projects and we like still felt like we were charging well. But like looking back, those projects were not always the most profitable. Like if you actually, you know, if you split that money between us two and the business and any other contractors we hired to help with that project, like it wasn't always the most profitable. So I think like although big projects and like high ticket clients can definitely sound super exciting, I don't think that's like always like the best project or always our favorite.
Yeah, just considering, like, the amount of time that was taking up on our calendar, the amount
Mhm.
of we couldn't take on a lot of other work while we were working with that one client, so
Which
that
would be
was
fine if you're charging enough for the
right.
project that you're doing, but we weren't always doing that. So it's like we're filling this huge time slot and doing all this work, and you're really stressed because there's like a lot of pressure on you, especially for those big projects. Like your clients are really expecting a lot of you,
Mhm.
and it's just like it's a lot to have to like fulfill. And
It's
so if
very
you're not
emotionally
adequately charging
taxing.
for that, it's very emotionally taxing. And if you're not charging enough, it cannot be as profitable as you're hoping. And then you're kind of taking away from your business in other areas. So
Mhm.
it's not always the best. I think it's important to have like levels of services in your business. We found that that has been like the most like successful for us for sure.
Yeah, it and that kinda leads into just how it takes a while to figure out the type of services that you enjoy providing, and also that's probably going to change depending on where you're at in life. I know there are some designers that just do, like, one specific service that's, like, a set timeline, and they just do that over and over again,
Yeah.
whereas for us, I think we do like having the variety in timeline because it kinda keeps things varied for us, and it allows us to work with a lot of different type of business owners. It's not like, oh, like your needs and budget don't fit into the service that we have, so we can't work with you. Like that was very
Yeah.
freeing to be able to offer timelines that like really varied and budget options that varied because I really do love getting to work with business owners that maybe are on like a 3K or under budget. Like those have been some really excellent clients to work with, but I also, of course, love doing the bigger ones too. I like both of them. I think the reason I like both of them is probably because of the smaller ones being less taxing emotionally and feeling like less of a commitment because sometimes when you're 5 weeks into like a 10-week project, it's like, it's a lot, you know, depending on you don't always know how the dynamic is going to go with the client. It can be stressful for the client as well because it's a big
Hmm.
commitment and a big investment for them. So it is nice to have those quicker ones where you just, you know, take them on and then send them off. And then if you guys decide you want to work together again in the future, you can, but you're done with that initial project.
Yeah, and I kinda like that too, just because I like to, like, mix things up a lot. I feel like I do get kind of bored. I mean, like, I still love my clients, I still love my projects, but I do kinda get bored working on the same project for, like, 10 weeks, and, like, I'm
It's a long
so ready
time.
to be done with it by the end. And so I really do enjoy our shorter projects because I can just, like, get really excited about them, get all these great ideas out, and then be done and get that, like, I don't know, that dopamine boost you get of just being like, "Ooh, I just finished this project," and, like, I'm so proud of how it turned out. Like, that's a great feeling, and I like having that more often. I think that definitely, like, just feels better. I don't know, it's nice.
And it's probably not something it's something that would be hard to find probably, like, if you worked for a company as a designer because I
Yeah.
assume, like, you're working on really long projects when you're in that type
Mhm.
of role.
Yeah, I do have friends who are, like, in more corporate design, kinda offices, and it just sounds like such a mess. Like, they try to be super organized, they have all these systems, but it's like it's also, like, corporate, and so nothing actually gets done when it's supposed to be, and there's just so many people involved, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, I'm so glad that we have our own business and, like, can do it the way that we want to do it." I feel like we're a lot
Yeah.
more, like, productive and effective, because we just kinda cut out all of the, like, corporate, like, crap you have to do. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that I've not worked for a corporate company, but just from the people around me that do, I think it would suck my soul in
Oh,
that
yeah.
way,
I
and I know
worked at
it sucks
some,
other
like, in
people's souls
college,
too.
but yeah, it definitely I was like, I don't know if this is my favorite. I don't know if I wanna work on these types of projects all the
Yeah.
time."
And it's just that trade-off of like, yes, as entrepreneurs, we don't have to deal with all of that. We can just get stuff done, but it comes with a lot more responsibility and emotional weight too, because
Mhm.
when you are making your own projects and the systems, like ultimately you're responsible for all of it. But I feel like it is worth it to me so long as I'm putting in the work to manage those challenges that come along with it. It makes me feel more fulfilled and like that is worth it to me. That's more important, I think,
Mhm. Yeah, I
at
feel
this
like
stage in
no
my life.
matter yeah, I feel like I don't even know if I ever would go work for another company if I if I can manage to, like if I can manage to always like do my own thing, I think I would try to because it just like works so much more for my personality and my interests and my strengths, like I really love being able to like have control over my days and over the work that I do. It makes me a lot happier.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be the right opportunity for me. I feel like it would be really beneficial for my professional growth to work for someone else, and I could see myself doing it in the future, like if it really was the right situation. And like who knows, like sometimes I know a lot of designers hit a point where they're just like, I need a change. Like I'm exhausted from, doing my business, and it usually seems to be a specific creative role for someone else that they'll transition into. That's not necessarily just like a kind of stereotypical corporate design role.
Yeah,
Um,
like I wouldn't want to go work for someone else and like just be a designer again. Like I would want some other type of like leadership role, creative director kind of thing. I don't know.
yeah, I feel like it could be important for me just because I did jump into running my own business so young that I don't have that other type of experience. And sometimes I do feel like that is interesting that if I were to ever go work for someone else, my primary professional experience would be running my own business, which is
Mhm.
excellent experience in a lot of ways because it's so varied and I have experience with like a lot of softwares and management systems, but at the same time I do lack that like professional work environment
Mhm.
experience, which
I
is
think
interesting.
since I have had that experience, I feel like I would struggle going back. I would struggle with the hierarchy change of like, not that I struggle with someone else like being my boss, but like just because of the way that a lot of like corporate things, like if I was going to work for someone else, it would have to be another like independent creative studio that like is kind of doing things their own way too, because I wouldn't want to do corporate where like, I do get very agitated by structures of business or things where they're doing all these things one way that don't make sense to me or that seems to make things more difficult. Like I feel like I'm always trying to think of like what's going to be the easiest most effective way of doing this. Like I try to think outside the box, like I make things work for my brain. And like Cass and I have both kind of learned we're both neurodivergent. Like I think Cass, you officially have an ADHD diagnosis. I
Mhm.
don't have an official like on paper one, but I did get prescribed medication for it, which has honestly been changing my life. And just because of all those things about me and the way my brain works, I just like don't think I could do corporate kind of work anymore. Like I just don't think that would work for me. I think it would, like you said, suck my soul and I would hate it and it would just like not it would just not click for me.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and it just makes me feel like I just feel so much empathy for most Americans who are in that type of
Mhm.
job and like are like a lot of them are neurodivergent creatives, and they just deal with it. And I'm like
Yeah.
that. I feel for the majority of people who have to do that, and I do feel privileged that I don't because I know a lot of it's like not a choice. Like it's fun to talk about, oh, I would like to do this or I'd like to do that, but when it comes down to it for most people, it's like you have to take the work that you can get. A lot of us come to points in our lives where we don't get to have that freedom, so I do feel really lucky that we get to
Yeah.
do this in a way. I think it's good to keep that perspective sometimes. When it does feel hard, it's like, well, this does have a lot of benefits that a lot of people don't get to have.
I think it really just depends too on like your skill set because there are a lot of people like I know I have friends who are like I could never work for myself. Like they do need the structure and they
Hmm.
need that safety net of like the paycheck's always going to be the same. Their expectations are set for them. Like not everyone wants has this desire to like do your own thing. So I think it is nice that we have the desire and the skill set and the freedom to do that. Like we've been able to do this for ourselves is really nice.
Yeah. Kind of shifting gears, one interesting lesson I feel like I've learned and been thinking about in the past year is how working with other service providers has made me a better service provider. And we've consistently worked with a photographer pretty much since the beginning of our business, but we worked with a copywriter this year and we've worked with
Worked
a
with a
Pinterest
bookkeeper,
manager. We've always
Pinterest
worked with a
manager.
bookkeeper. Yeah. And it's been cool to get to afford to work with more service providers and hire stuff out. Not only because like you have someone taking care of that for you, but also just to get to be in the shoes of a client. I think that has been really important for keeping a good perspective and making us better as service providers ourselves, because you get to remember what it's like to be the one who's in the role of the client. And sometimes when you're just having your own process as a designer, you don't fully know what it feels like to be the client and being like added to a project workspace or given to dos. Or I think it's just good to have that perspective, because with some service providers I would be like, oh, like I'm finding this confusing, or
Mhm.
this made me feel like I wasn't looped in. Or not that we had like terrible experiences, just little things that I think really helped us improve our process, because that's just really important to us to give a really great client experience and to have a good project management system. So that's something interesting that I wouldn't have thought about probably earlier on, of like, oh, it's important to work with other service providers for that reason. But I think it really has helped us hone our process and just kept me really empathetic to my clients and helped me maintain good relationships. And like looking back at our client reviews of what people say afterwards, of how they felt like the process was really streamlined or easier, they felt really looped in. I think working with other service providers has really helped in that area.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really great point. Like you learn so much from other people, and so it's really nice when you do get to work with them and collaborate. You learn a lot from each other.
Another lesson I was thinking on that same thought was just that collaboration in general as a business owner can feel really scary, at least to me, when it came to like working with freelancers, hiring people to help me with like website development, for example, or just any kind of collaboration. For some reason, I kind of had it in my mind that if I added people like to my workspaces or kind of let them in to see like how I was running things or what I needed, maybe people would like judge how I had things set
Like
up, or
feeling
like,
self-conscious about
yeah,
our business.
exactly.
Yeah.
Feeling like maybe I'm not doing things right. Or if somebody came, like, I remember getting on a call with a developer to try and like troubleshoot this thing. And she was like, oh, it's really interesting how you use like the Google Inspector. And I was like, oh, like just, I
Like
don't having,
interesting good or
I,
interesting weird? Like
I
what do you
think
mean?
I think she was super kind, but yeah, just having people like look at how I do things did make me really self-conscious. But the more I've done it and like collaborated with people, every experience has been positive and everyone has been so nice. Like for example, when I brought contractors in to help with project management on things, they're pretty much familiar with like every project workspace or like project management software. They'll be like, sure, you use Basecamp, I'll jump into that. Or I'm familiar with all these other ones too. Like they're very adaptable. Most people are when it comes to like hiring people to work on stuff. And then also collaboration the other way of um, becoming a part of someone else's process. Like, for example, we're hiring our friend Olivia to do a bunch of Canva graphics for us and just graphics for like our business. And that's been such a cool experience, just to get to like talk to her, get her ideas. And it makes me excited to work with even more designers in the future, because like truly it's been a good experience like pretty much every single time. And it's made me feel more confident and connected. And I just think there's only pros to collaboration, even though I felt nervous about doing it at first.
Yeah, and I think like recently we've really collaborated with several people. We've hired them to make a lot of mock-ups for our new site, which is very exciting. I think by the time this episode comes out, our new website and rebrand will be all fully launched, so you guys can check that out. But we've hired a lot of people to help with like all the graphics and just kind of having people to take like an outside look at our brand and how we're wanting to change things. Having their perspective has been really great. And I think collaboration just makes like your business and your brand and your work so much stronger. So that's something I'm really excited to work on as we grow our business. Like we've talked about, do we want to like hire more people? Do we want to bring them on to like our team, not just like collaborating with contractors? Like that's just something we're exploring and seeing like how do we want to grow in the future. But like having these experiences, I can see that working with other designers and other service providers only makes the work that we provide or only makes our brand even stronger and better. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for all of that. So I think another big lesson we learned is that it's definitely worth investing in education and improving our skills, learning from mentors, learning from people who've done things before, or even just like investing in communities to be a part of with other designers. I think that's really, really helpful, especially for like having someone to kind of like toss your ideas around with and get feedback on, maybe even showing your designs and getting other design feedback so you can grow and improve. Cass and I were talking recently about like how getting feedback from other designers can really help like sharpen your like design eye. I think especially when you're a new designer, like you can often see like what looks good, but you can't always deliver that same quality of work because you don't quite have the skill set to like create that level of work. Or like Cass was saying, like she felt like you can talk more about this, but you felt like you didn't even have like a super strong design eye at first. And so I think that's where like having a community of designers or having mentors, having educational like communities you're in can just be really, really helpful in like sharpening all of those skills.
Yeah, as far as the community goes, you're going to have so many questions when you're just starting out, and you're not going to find the answers on Google because they're going to be really specific and there's going to be a million different answers to those questions. So, I am really glad that we had a business coach for the first couple of years because it was just somebody who was an experienced business owner who we could ask questions and they would know our specific situation and be able to give us a definitive answer or
Or help us find the
plan.
right answer for ourselves too, like just having like reassurance, and guidance.
Exactly. Or someone who would
Mhm.
be like, "Yes, I hear what you're going through. That is normal. And know that it's going to be
Validation.
okay."
Mhm.
Validation. And here's some ideas for what you could be focusing on
Mhm.
to either just keep pushing forward or maybe to start addressing that specific problem. And it wasn't like, "Oh, this is how you're going to become rich quick," or like become an
Mhm, and
incredible
it's not even
designer
that
in
she
1 month.
had, like, the exact perfect answer or the solution, but you kinda just like you said, if you're going to Google, there's, like, a million answers, right? And it's like having someone know our unique position and be able to give us an answer, even if it's not even if it wasn't always correct. It's just nice to have, like, one place that you're getting, like, feedback from. That way it's a lot less confusing, and that was really nice to have.
Yeah, and from someone who has that background in business too, I think
Mhm.
I would much rather prefer that than somebody who's, like, jumped into being a coach and, like, has 1 year of business experience and, like, that's it, like, I don't think you're gonna glean as much from that as you would from someone who has been through some stuff and can maybe see, like, what you might face if you were to keep on the same path or, just has that wisdom to help you with.
Yeah, and I think that's something we try to like really keep in mind too in our own coaching because we also have, multiple courses for designers and we do one-on-one coaching. We've done group coaching in the past, and that's something we try to keep in mind too is that like we as coaches and guides are not always going to have the one perfect answer for everyone either. And we try to tell them like, this is still your business, like you can like take it or leave it, like what we advise you to do. It's still your business and we still want to like empower you to feel confident in making your own choices. I think that's like the best way to go about being a guide. But I think it's really great that we had that experience of like having our own mentors and own coaches to help our growth, and we kind of get to have that perspective, and then we can kind of pass that down to our own students in our courses. And we've taught now over 6 years, we've taught like 500 plus designers, which is crazy to think about that we've even had that many through our programs. But I think our programs and communities have been really great for those designers. We've seen a lot of growth in them.
Yeah. So, like, absolutely worth the investments to get
Mhm.
that higher level coaching from like our coach and then the other courses we invested in, which also allowed us to be part of those communities in like Slack or Discord or whatever. Like, we've also just joined paid communities of designers and
Mhm.
entrepreneurs and been in free ones too, like in Facebook. And I think those are so valuable in their own right as well, because that's where you can get that feedback if you're needing a second set of eyes on something. Like me and Amanda have had each other, which is so helpful. But
Mhm.
if you're a solopreneur, you don't have a partner. So I think it's important to find people who can proof things for you. Um, because yeah, as you're honing your design eye, you don't know what to look for or like what you're missing all of the
Mhm.
time. And looking back now at stuff I did in the first couple of years, it's so obvious to me all the things I would change or
Right. We've
um,
just grown so much. I mean, we were so young too when we started. It's like you're not going to be an expert designer when you first start, and I think that's
no.
maybe a lesson in and of itself is like we all expect ourselves to be experts like immediately and you're just not going to be.
Right.
It takes years and years, and even then like I don't think you ever actually reach like expert level because you're always going to be reaching new levels, you're always going to be learning new skills and improving. There's not really like an end cap to that, I don't think. It's like an always evolving thing.
And there's always going to be clients that are right that are the right match for your skill level where you're
Mhm.
at. Even if you are learning web design, for example, like if you're teaching yourself, there's going to be some person you know or person starting a business out there that would benefit from you learning web design and building your first website for them, for a really discounted rate or something. So there's always going to be a match. I just think it's important as long as you're being transparent, about your skill level and your experience and charging correctly for that. There's always going to be a match all the way along your growth journey, as you
Mhm.
grow into being a more experienced designer.
Yeah, because I feel like people always ask us online, like I'll get like TikTok, comments all the time that are like, "Do you think the design industry is oversaturated?" My answer
Mm.
is always no. Like a biggest lesson here is just like to never think that like there's not going to be work for you, because like Cass said, like there's always going to be an equal match client for the designer for whatever price point and skill level you're at. They're going to have that budget or that that design style they're looking for. Like there's always going to be a match. Like I don't think you're ever going to run out. The important part is just like marketing yourself well, finding like your niche, like your niche, and finding your like positioning, and then you're going to find the right people, and those people may change. Like the type of clients you're going to attract are going to change throughout the years. Our clientele has certainly changed and evolved and grown with us, so that's just like a natural evolution of owning a business.
And it feels very saturated to us and to you if you're a designer and you follow other designers. But I think
If that's
it's
all you're seeing. Yeah.
yeah, it feels like, oh my God, people have so many choices. But in reality, if you put yourself in the shoes of a business owner who is looking for a service provider, or if you yourself have ever been like, okay, I need to hire somebody to do this, it doesn't feel like there's a huge pool of people you're choosing
Feels like you have to search
between.
quite a bit.
It feels like I don't even know where to begin. Okay, I'm going to think of this one connection I had with this one. You can maybe think of one person, that you're looking for, and you'll start there. And that's how it is when people are looking to hire you and eventually find you. It's like they have this one connection with you at an event, or they searched designers near me and, you came up locally for them, or they just happened to come across your Instagram post. Like marketing is actually not like people just being like, I have 10 incredible designers to choose from. It's them trying to find somebody. And when they find you and they feel like they connect with you or they've had a connection point in the past, you are very, very likely going to be the person they choose. It just might take some time for the timing to align correctly to where they are ready to invest in your services and you have the service or the timeline that is the right fit for them.
Mhm. I think that's another reason why it's just like it's good to have a couple different like offerings, so you can always be appealing to different people that you want to work with. I think that's really important. So like in our experience too, I feel like a lot of the clients who do reach out to us, they'll tell us like they've followed us for a long time and like we're like the only designer they're talking to. Occasionally we'll get someone who says like they're gonna talk to a couple different agencies, but usually they just want to work with us. Like we're the only designer they know and the only one they want to work with. And it's not that we're super special and they've just like always wanted to work with us. It's just like you said, like they just know us. It's easy. It makes sense, or they clicked with us for some
They trust
reason.
us.
They trust us, yeah. And even if we've never met, maybe it's just like they really click with our content or our design style, whatever it is. So I think it's just something important to keep in mind.
Okay, so maybe to do one last lesson that kind of wraps things up, I think it's important to keep in mind that running a successful business is a long term endeavor and you need to have realistic expectations for it. And I think when we started our business, we didn't necessarily have any specific expectations except for like how cool would it be if this business was actually something that paid us enough that we could comfortably live off of. That
And
would
the
be awesome.
context there was like this was like a good time for us in our lives. Like we were young, still in college or just graduated. Like the town we lived in was very like affordable. So it we didn't have to think as hard maybe as like I feel like I would have put a lot more like strategy and time and intention into like my exact goals if my life was more expensive or if I had, children or dependents or something. I don't have children
Yeah.
now, but like if I did, I think my life is in a different place now where I would put a lot more like intention and thought and also would have a lot more worries nowadays than I did at that time. So I think we were kind of lucky with the timing, but I think the lesson still stands. Like it's really important to not overreach like too far. I think you want to set goals that are like, you definitely want to reach, but you don't want it to be so far that it's impossible and then you just get discouraged, because then your business isn't going to go anywhere if you're always discouraged and you want to quit and you're burnt
Right.
out.
Yeah, I think you can expect within the first year of whether you're doing it like as a freelance kind of thing, or even if you're going all in, that first year is really just going to be building things from the ground up. And you should not expect to have like extremely consistent business and income by the end of year one. That's just not going to happen for most people. So that is why it's important to have some kind of support plan, whether it's like you have a partner who can support you and you can afford to slowly build things up, or you're transitioning from a job or whatever that looks like. Just know that it's going to take a lot of time to build that up. And we talked about how clients, will follow us for years before reaching out. That's just how marketing goes. It is a very long-term endeavor where you make a connection, you know, in your first year, and they come back 2 years later, 3 years later, and they're finally ready to work with you. So it just takes a lot of time to get that snowball going. And I think in, year 6, we do have a steady stream of inquiries from a lot of different places, from, building our SEO up, from building our platforms. But it's been a lot of work of just being consistent. So you have to have, I think it's really beneficial to have that mindset of, this is going to take time. I'm not going to have unrealistic expectations of seeing this level of success, or, what it's going to look like here, but having those goals that are achievable. And that is where it could be helpful to get some coaching from somebody who has done this before, who can like take a look at your situation and be like, yeah, I think this would be a realistic goal for you to strive for, because sometimes you just don't know, if this is your
Mhm.
first time doing something like this.
Yeah, I think you don't know what you don't know. So it's really nice to have someone who has experience and perspective they can provide for you.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up there for today. I don't know how many lessons we did, but I feel
A
like we
lot.
did a lot
You
of
should go
them.
back and
We
count.
should- yeah. That was nice to take a look back. Hope you guys maybe gleaned a few things about running your own design business, or if you want to start one, you're feeling inspired. But thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to our next episode, and you can find all of our templates and courses for designers at foxtrotbranding.com. We have just rolled out a new website design,
So
so super excited
exciting.
for you guys to take a look. We've refreshed our branding. It's looking very colorful and fun, and I just think true to us, and true to our brand. So excited for you guys to check that out. You can also follow us on Instagram at Foxtrot Branding and hang out with us there until our next episode.
Thanks, guys.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye.